Good morning and happy Friday, everyone. Thank you guys so much for joining. We have a lot to talk about today. There's a lot of stocks moving big to the upside and the downside. And we'll start off with the bad news first, and that is DraftKings is tanking in pre-market. It's not horrible, but it's definitely not good. Yesterday they closed at around $44.60 each. Right now they're at that $42 level. It just was kind of like a disappointing earnings report. The good news is that their revenue did jump by 60%, and they're expecting to have a strong fourth quarter, which is great to see. So we'll see what happens there. All in all, it sucks to see this short-term price movement. That sucks. It kind of like ruins the hype, but on the good side, it's a great opportunity to sell some puts and average into shares.
Yeah, and you can get shares of DraftKings really low right now. You can see it's trading around $42 a share. Earlier this morning, we ran down to around $39, around that $40 support, and we bounced right off of that. So this might be a pretty good support here for the longer term. If this ends up holding up, maybe DraftKings will start to bounce off this support back to the upside. But here we go. The market's opening up, Mike, and we actually have the SPY making new all-time highs, running up pretty drastically this morning. And the SPY's starting to run kind of like NVIDIA. We've been seeing NVDA just continue to make new highs, and the SPY is no slouch at all either. I mean, you can see just this week alone, we moved from like 460 all the way up to 470.
You know it. So NVIDIA, speaking of them, they're like still holding their ground after that crazy day yesterday. They're up like 2% or so, and like at this point, I feel like it's just too late. Like if you're not already in it, I feel like just to like sit out because IV's so high. And Tom, like we talked about yesterday, if you would have put $100 into the 300 strike calls that expired today, if you did that on, Wednesday at close, that would now be worth over $55,000. So that's just crazy. And I feel like at that point, you might as well just like stay on the sidelines.
Yeah, definitely. And there's lots of other stuff moving. Like we have Pfizer moving today. We have Delta Airlines actually up quite a bit with a lot of momentum. So there's definitely lots of other stocks that you could get into that might be better for right now. And as we can see, Delta Airlines has actually been consolidating for quite a bit. And with this pop up, Mike, they're almost back up to that resistance up there, back up there around $45 or so. This one's actually starting to really fly up today.
Yeah, Delta's looking good. CCL's looking good. RCL's looking really good. I actually really like the setup on all these.
Yeah, me too. And they were running a few weeks ago, and it looks like in RCL's case, like there's a big resistance up here right around that huge $100 psychological level. And a lot of these stocks look like they're getting back up to those resistances, and maybe we'll finally break because like we've seen with RCL, it's going to be like the third touch up here. So hopefully we can finally get some good movement.
I think we're going to break this time, hopefully.
Yeah, I hope we finally do.
All right. And then another one that's popping off is, I know it's not a lot and I know it's not crazy, but Disney, they're having a pretty good up day. They're up just under 2%. Looks like maybe we're seeing a little bit of a pre-earnings run-up. Again, like I said, it's nothing crazy, but it's good to finally see some sort of direction with this one.
Yeah, it really is. As we can see, as I go back here further in time, ever since like the beginning of October, we've just been sitting pretty much at a standstill with Disney. And I'm just really glad to finally see it moving off of this bottom support too. I feel like that with it going up off the support, that's a really good sign. Heading into earnings like with DraftKings and a few other stocks, they were actually breaking support to the downside a couple of days heading into earnings. So I think it's a good sign that Disney's kind of popping up off of that support.
For sure. All right. Even Boeing's like kind of holding its ground. They're up like 2% today, which is pretty good. So that's awesome to see. But I also want to talk about Peloton. They had earnings yesterday, and they are down 33%. So they are just, it's looking pretty bad for this one, Like, I think I might sell some puts on it.
Yeah, that actually really scares me for some of these other stocks like Zoom coming up. I know that people have been talking about Peloton and Zoom possibly recovering back up, but man, it looks like they ended up breaking their support to the downside. Hopefully Zoom's earnings go well, or else they could end up having the same fate. We've been seeing lots of stocks take some pretty drastic drops lately. Like we've been seeing Chegg take huge moves down, and now we just have another example here. I think Roku had a big drop down the other day as well, and it's just not looking good for a lot of stocks on earnings right here. And like I said, it's really worrying me for Zoom over the next couple of weeks. Like I'd love for Zoom to hold support, but if it ends up breaking like some of these other stocks, we might end up going down 30% or something crazy.
Yeah, I don't think so, but hopefully it just holds its ground. But I just want to welcome everyone to the stream really quickly. So thank you guys so much for being here, and welcome Rick, Vicky, Mike, Bill, Dang, and Spacely. Let us know what stocks you are watching. We have Mike saying, look at Penn, Penn. So looking at this one, they're doing pretty good, Tom, for such a horrible day they had yesterday. So that's good to see, but all in all, it's still on a kind of like a pretty strong like downtrend over like the past couple weeks.
Yeah, it did just recover up very slightly from that big downtrend. That's why we're up 7%. So I don't know, while it is up 7% and recovering up pretty decently, like you said, it still hasn't moved back up here enough, in my opinion. I feel like once we pass above maybe this like 65 resistance, it might show a little bit more strength. But as of right now, I feel like it's just kind of pulling back to the upside after having such a bad drop that one day.
Yeah. Well, Tom, I'm getting a little bit excited. DraftKings is actually, it was in the green. It was literally in the green. So this is good. I mean, maybe, I don't even know what to say with this one. Like, it's been all over the place, like messing with my emotions.
Yeah, hopefully it pulls like what do you say it was that Teledoc earlier in the week?
Yeah, Teledoc.
Yeah, hopefully it pulls a Teledoc and just fully reverses and ends up even running back to the upside. We even saw this happen with CRSR the other day. They ended up tanking down in pre-market and then flying up at market open. And even whenever Tesla reported a couple weeks ago, they were going red for a while. And then the very next day, they just exploded right back and made new all-time highs. So hopefully DraftKings gets that type of movement, Mike. That would obviously be awesome for us. But one stock I just wanted to bring up really quickly is actually Intel, Mike. They're actually running up pretty drastically today. We're just seeing lots of stocks honestly moving up. I mean, it seems like a pretty good ending of the week so far, and the SPY is still running up here even at market open.
You know it. All right, so let's see. We have Violet saying, what's your opinion on Rdbx? So let's take a look at this one. Honestly, I haven't watched it too much. Rdbx, boy.
Yep.
So Rdbx, it's down 16% today. Like I said, I haven't watched it too much. In my opinion, it's just like really, really, really volatile, and there's no like major trend with it. Like, yes, it had an awesome day yesterday, but I just feel like there's no like really strong trend, and at the same time, it doesn't have the hype that some of these other, I guess you could say, like other stocks like it has had. For example, like the other week we saw DWAC stock explode because of Trump and stuff like that, and then we had BKKT explode because of the MasterCard and crypto deal, right? So like with this one, there's no like, it just doesn't have that same hype. So for that reason, I just don't think it's worth playing.
Yeah, Mike, is this the same Redbox company that like you go and you buy those DVDs at like Walgreens and stuff like that?
I believe so. Like I said, I have not analyzed the stock too much, but I believe so, and I'm looking it up right now.
Oh, gotcha. But yeah, if it is that company, it could be pretty interesting just because of how that company is. But in the end, like you would think that, all these streaming services and stuff would be pretty bad for that company if it is the same. So in the end, I don't know. It's not my favorite stock. I think there's a lot better things to play out there. Obviously, there's lots of stocks moving today, like these airlines and even Pfizer.
For sure. So I'm still just looking into this stock. Yeah, it looks like it is, Tom. It looks like it is. I'm just going to, like I said, I'm analyzing it live on the stream. So let us know. Yeah, it looks like it is. All right, cool. All right, so back to the stocks that are moving today. I know we talked a little bit about these cruise lines and stuff like that, but I just want to cover them one more time. I feel like they're in a really good position right now. Like, even if you look at CCL or RCL, of course they're not like the safest company in the world, but I feel like at these levels they're looking pretty good. And like Tom said, like we're getting really close to that resistance for, what is it, like the third or fourth touch now? So maybe we see a breakout.
Yeah, and with these earnings coming out just a couple weeks ago and everything, I feel like we could definitely see it happen, and we're starting to get some pretty good momentum. So hopefully we do. I know that RCL, they have that big resistance at $100. CCL has a big resistance around $30. If we even go out to like United Airlines, their big resistance is up there around $60. So definitely look at those levels, guys. I think those will be pretty key over the next week or so. RCL is like the closest one to breaking it so far that I'm seeing. And one that's not particularly an airline that I've been eyeing up that we talked about for a brief moment earlier, Mike, is actually Boeing. And they're actually bouncing off this bottom support here, and they're actually moving back above this longer term trend line, Mike, that they've been continuously bouncing to the downside off of. So if we could start to get some good movement to the upside here, this could maybe be an awesome break of 220 for Boeing to the upside over the next couple of days.
I love it. It's in a pretty good setup. It's a solid company. They're pretty safe, and I feel like at this level, they're like kind of like they just need something. They need like a new uptrend, and I feel like this could be the start of it. And all in all, I just feel like they're in a pretty good setup.
Yeah, and with all these other airlines going up, they usually go up with those companies too. So hopefully they can start to go up. And they did have a couple problems earlier this year that kind of made them fall back down, like some problems with the Dreamliner and stuff like that. But hopefully they worked out the kinks. And I love the bounces off support. Now, if we would have broke this support and went to the downside, I'd probably be saying to short it right now. But hey, with the technicals lining up to the upside, it looks like a pretty solid play.
How about we look at this market, Tom? It is just exploding, like literally new all-time highs as we speak. It's exploding.
The SPY's up to 470. I never thought I'd say that this week after where we started. It's just been a very nice week, pretty much all green days so far. It's honestly been so nice, Mike. Like we had Tesla running up earlier in the week. We have Nvidia continuing to fly up, making new highs. AMD running up. We even had stocks like Qualcomm have a huge explosive move yesterday. I feel like, Mike, with these earnings, these stocks are either like exploding or dying, it seems like, off the earnings. So we are seeing some stocks go down, like how we saw CHGG, have that huge move down. Zillow had a really bad couple of days too. And, while some stocks are down, it seems like the bigger players like the Nvidias, the AMDs, the Facebooks, all those stocks seem like that they're up right now. So that's an awesome sign for the overall market. And it seems like the big tech is really recovering here after having a little bit of a dip like last month. I know some people were getting worried about some of these stocks like Facebook even and stocks like that. And they're actually recovering up very nicely, even Snapchat.
There we go. Yeah, I'm looking at like a couple different things right now. We're seeing just a lot of stocks explode, Tom. And what I like about this is we're finally seeing stocks explode other than, the normal Nvidia or Tesla or Square or something like that. Like we're seeing like a new mix in here. We have Intel popping off. Like we already talked about the cruise lines, Boeing, Disney. Let's see, Upwork's doing all right, stuff like that. Spotify's trending up. So it's good to see this new mix coming in, and I feel like there's going to be a huge opportunity with a lot of these stocks. Like I know we already talked about it a little bit, but like Disney and Boeing especially, I feel like they're two solid companies at pretty awesome levels.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of these other stocks are at pretty high highs, I should say. Like if we go look at like stocks like Enphase, it's been running up pretty drastically for the past couple of months. It's starting to look like an upstart here. And I feel like as a couple of these growth stocks start to pull back to the downside, these airlines and stocks like Boeing might finally start getting more attention. And, the setups are setting up pretty well. Honestly, like the setup on American Airlines, it's honestly setting up kind of like a Corsair was or something like that around support. It looks like a pretty decent setup. And the thing that I really like is that it's not just in a good setup, but there's good potential for the long term. Like if you get shares right here and American Airlines is somehow able to get back to those pre-COVID levels, you're talking about a pretty significant increase to the upside here.
You know it. So speaking of Corsair, what do you think of this one?
I actually really like it, Mike. On the daily, it's coming through pretty well. Those earnings really turned it around. It was really scaring me there for a little bit. They fell through that support around $25, just consolidated. And I'm so glad to see them kind of getting this pop back up over the past couple of days. I think it shows that they have a lot of strength. And I know that big buyers like Kathy Wood and some people like that have been buying the dips on Corsair. So hopefully we see it get a nice boost back to the upside over the next few weeks and even over the next few months. I honestly really like this stock. And I feel like that over the winter, more people are going to be buying these computer parts and stuff. So hopefully that helps them.
All right, so let's get right into these comments. We have Luna saying, "Good morning. Have you guys looked at ATVI? Let's take a look." So it is down a little bit today. I think that they're a pretty good stock to own, though, for the long term. I like them. This is the first time we checked them out on today's stream. I know they're falling off of earnings, but what are your thoughts on them?
I really like this. I really like it, to be honest. And one thing that I really like is that new Call of Duty game actually just released today, which is pretty interesting, November 5th. So that's a pretty cool thing to see. I know lots of people have been playing it, at least my friends anyways, not me, but you know how that goes. But
Yep.
either way, I like the stock for the long term. In the short term, they have had some bad movement. I know that they had to delay a couple other games and stuff like that. So definitely keep it on the radar. I think picking up shares of this company is going to be awesome for the long term, and even selling puts here in the short term, I think could be good. But I don't know. I don't think I'd play the calls yet on them. It's just that was such a drastic drop to the downside, and it's just not a good start, especially with that game releasing today.
Gotcha. Yeah, very interesting. All right, so let's see. With the next comment, we have Gabriel saying Disney finally moving. I'm with you. It's finally moving. It's what? It's been months before it's been months since we've seen like an actually like explosive good uptrend with this one.
Yeah, it really has. Like honestly, the last time I saw a really nice one was back on like October, or I should say August, like 19th and 20th. That was like the beginning, and then we ended up running up to like 186 to 190. I really hope that this support ends up holding up. And in the shorter term, I'm seeing a resistance around 175, and I feel like we could easily break above that today. And we're just now passing above the pre-market high, which shows some pretty good strength coming in right now.
Here we go. We have Spacely coming in with all caps saying, "I have the 43 strike Delta calls. I'm nervous as heck over here." Let's take a look. Wow. Yeah, I mean, it had a crazy move. I mean, you got to be up pretty good on those calls if you got them anytime recently, but it's trending in the right direction. It looks good. You can always roll the play over. So, like, for example, if your expiration is today, what you can do is you can just sell today's expiration and then just buy next week's expiration, or, like a couple weeks out, and that would be a roll, and that could just give you more time. So that'll make you a little bit less nervous, and it'll probably be a pretty good idea.
Yeah, I think that'll be pretty good too. And then obviously, like you said, you don't have to worry about it quite as much. And then you might be able to even relax and enjoy the rest of your day today, because I know Delta Airlines is probably going to go pretty crazy. They've been running a lot today, and I would expect them to get pretty volatile here soon.
There we go. All right, we have Jay saying, "Thoughts on Moderna? It's down." Damn, Tom, I actually meant to buy puts on this one, and it's down like 20% today. I mean, I was really, really looking at like put debit spreads or just puts on this one in general. IV exploded today. I mean, I can still see it falling more. It's just you'll probably want to get some put debit spreads instead of the naked puts at this point. I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to think. I mean, IV's rising. It's nothing crazy just yet. I don't know, Tom. I mean, I still think I feel like it'll fall more. But like if you look back throughout history, like if you look on like October 4th, 5th, and 6th of 2021, it was after the recent huge drop. Yeah, like right there exactly. We saw the stock fall down more, but it was kind of like a consolidation fall. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't like a total tank like we're seeing now. So that's kind of like what I'm expecting for like the next couple weeks or so. What do you think?
Yeah, and what's one of the big stocks down today on earnings, Mike?
Peloton.
Peloton, yeah, like we can see, like with Peloton, for example, they had that big gap to the downside earlier this week. We had CHGG have a big fall down, and like you can see, they're still going lower, but like Mike said, they're kind of consolidating there. Whenever you look at what's the ticker again?
Moderna.
Moderna, man, there's so many of these big earnings moves here. Whenever you look at Moderna to the downside, especially on the daily, it has these two huge gaps. Like this is pretty rare. It doesn't happen all the time. And I feel like that one of the big reasons that we're seeing such a drastic move with Moderna, Mike, is that Moderna's been pretty much living on this vaccine news for the past couple of years. Like they've been flying up. More mandates have been coming out, forcing people to get vaccinated even more and stuff like that. So it's been really good for Moderna. But I'll tell you what, as we start to get away from all the vaccines and stuff, I think it's totally expected to see some of these vaccine stocks move back to the downside, kind of like what we're seeing here with Moderna. And then also, while Moderna is moving down, we have stocks like Pfizer popping up, coming out with a COVID pill today. So, there's lots of different stuff going on with these vaccination companies, and just be really careful with them, because I feel like that the news is all over the place. Like Moderna for a while was killing it with the vaccines, doing good. Who knows? This winter Delta might run rampant again, and then Moderna starts to fly back up. So, the news is always changing with COVID, and I feel like that's the main reason Moderna is falling. And I know they had a bad outlook on their vaccine sales too.
Like, look at Snapchat chart really quickly on the daily. Like, we can see it had a huge gap down, and then, like, technically it's still falling, but, like, this type of movement over that we've seen over, like, the past 1 to 2 weeks with Snapchat, like, your puts won't explode with that. And I feel like we're going to see the same thing with Moderna, where it'll probably continue to fall, but it's going to do it in a way where, it's just going to, like, consolidate and just, like, slowly go lower. So, with that being said, the ways to profit from that are a call credit spread. You can short the stock itself, which has its own unique risks, or you could buy a put debit spread, but you just got to be strategic with it. So there are definitely opportunities with this one. It's just you gotta be strategic. And to be completely honest, I feel like when we have stocks like Disney, Boeing, DraftKings, Corsair at the levels that they're at, I feel like it'd be safer to buy those stocks and probably a higher return.
Yeah, exactly. And even if you wanted some other stocks that fell, I feel like that there's a lot even better ones than Moderna. Like if we look at like Activision, like they just fell bad on earnings, and I feel like they're a pretty good pickup. PayPal is down here by support. A lot of these credit card companies. So yeah, I'm with you, Mike. There's just so much other better setups out there. I feel like Moderna will be awesome to play maybe for like some intraday day trades, honestly. Like if you're able to catch a good move to the downside, that could be a pretty nice quick day trade there. But personally, I probably won't end up playing Moderna at all. Like you said, I wish we would have grabbed those puts yesterday.
I know. Live and learn, right? All right, let's see. We have Kumar saying, what about SPY outlook? It's at 470. 485 next with a question mark. With the way it's trending, probably. We've seen some crazy movement over the past month or so, and the market has just been on a crazy bull run. So the market's more likely to rise than it is to fall. So I definitely wouldn't bet against it. So all in all, it's exploding up. We have a lot of stocks that are exploding up, and it's great to see. So Tom, I don't know if you have any input there or anything.
Yeah, I think it could definitely keep going. The market's really reacting well to what Powell talked about on Wednesday. And what I really like to see on the chart, Mike, is that pretty much, the SPY was going up a little by little this week, just slowly staircasing itself up. You can see Powell spoke on Wednesday, and as soon as he started talking at that press conference, the market just went absolutely crazy to the upside. We're seeing lots of stocks moving up, and which is awesome to see. And I think it's a really good sign for the next couple of months. And I'm not saying that the market's just going to keep flying straight up to $500 or anything. And it's so hard to call an exact top, like he was asking about, 485 next. I'm sure we'll get to 485. It's just the question is when, you can see even with Powell talking this week, we had a nice 10-point pop up. We would need another 10-point pop just to get the 480. And I don't know if I expect the SPY to do quite this good again next week, but in the end, I feel like over the next couple of months, the SPY has a pretty good chance to get up there.
There we go. Tom, how about this Fastly action? I'm sure you're happy you closed out yesterday.
Yes, I am. I am very happy. I've actually been seeing Fastly leading my watch list to the downside today, down 6.8%. Definitely not a good sign. They're bouncing off that 48 support, which is good, but man, those earnings were looking pretty promising with Fastly. They were running up, and then now today they just had a pretty drastic reversal. It's just such a weird scenario with earnings, and this is why earnings are always crazy.
Yep. All right. Then we have Sean saying, happy to find VOO from Mike's video last week. Yeah, VOO is a pretty good stock. It's basically like the SPY. It's an ETF that follows the S&P 500. It's basically the same thing, but if you are planning to invest into the S&P 500, it would be a lot smarter to invest into VU rather than the SPY, because VU has a much lower expense ratio. So if you, like, let's say you're going to be investing tens of thousands of dollars over the long term, you'll end up saving a couple hundred to a couple $1,000 just by selecting VOO. And I know that it doesn't seem like a major thing right now, but over the long term, like, it'll definitely add up.
Yeah, and what kind of charges are you talking about again?
Expense ratio. So basically, like, each company that like owns, or I guess you could say operates the ETF, they charge like a fee each year to do what they do, and VOO's fee is significantly lower than the SPY's. So I'll just pull it up for comparison. So if we go to I have an article right here. All right, so the expense ratio for, I just had it pulled up. Give me 1 second. Okay, give me 1 second. Let's see, expense. I'm pulling it up on this article. Okay, cool. So the expense ratio for VOO is 0.03%, while the SPY's expense ratio is 0.09%. So at the end of the day, the expense ratios are very low, right? But the SPY charges 3 times more than VOO, and like over like years, and if you're investing thousands, it can definitely add up.
Yeah, that sounds pretty drastic, actually. I wasn't expecting it to be 300% larger. Like you said, it's still under like 1%, so it's still low, but in the end, you're going to pay 300% more just to hold the SPY, so it makes sense there.
Yeah, 3 times more, so definitely big there. And then we have Mike saying, with the bullish run we had recently, should we be concerned of a big pullback like we had in September? Yes and no. It's just like the biggest mistake I made, especially when like within like the first, I would say 2 to 3 years I started trading, is I always thought the market was going to crash. I always thought it was overvalued. I always thought that we were about to have a big pullback. And I know that like when you see the market have this crazy run up, and you see stocks like Enphase explode up, it's easy to like kind of like bet against them and say, oh, there's gonna be a pullback soon, and it's definitely possible. But I would say the way to kind of protect yourself is have a long-term account and a short-term account. So like, for example, like if you just have a long-term account, you're gonna end up owning some of these stocks that just continuously go up, like the SPY or like Enphase or Nvidia or something like that. And if you wanted to kind of, I guess you can say, hedge or protect yourself, you can always take like bearish trades in your trading account. But really, we just, there would have to be like a big catalyst for it. Like I remember in September of last year, not this year, September of last year, we had Apple and Tesla stocks split, and that was that brought a lot of selling pressure in too. So long story short, yes, it's definitely possible, but there would have to be some sort of like catalyst or something like that.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like that there could be a little bit of a pullback pretty soon with how we've been going up. But keep in mind that whenever I say pullback, like we can see here, like how the SPY in March and April of this year was running up pretty drastically, making new highs, or at least, making new highs right there. And so if we look at like, let's just say like April 26th, you can start to see here how the SPY, it wasn't necessarily like tanking down, or I guess you could say it was slightly pulling back, but it was more of just consolidating. It was kind of staying between a range right there, having very slight pullbacks and just not really moving. And I'm not saying the SPY is going to crash, but I feel like that with the way we went up the past week or so, we might consolidate a little bit for the next week. But in the end, the SPY is really killing it. If these stocks like Nvidia keep going up and just keep making new highs, I feel like the SPY will keep going up with that as well. One thing that I've been a little bit worried about, Mike, is whenever these bigger stocks like Nvidia, AMD, and stocks like that start to pull back a little bit, I feel like the market will start to pull back. But the thing is kind of like what Mike said, everyone's always thinking like, oh, the market's coming down, we're going to see a crash, inflation's going to crash the market or whatever. But in the end, usually the market ends up persevering.
Yeah, it basically always finds a way. Like you look back throughout history, And don't get me wrong, there have been some major pullbacks, right? Like looking, you could even look at, of course, the major COVID crash from last year, but even if you looked at September, like there was a lot of selling pressure this September. I know in the grand scheme of things, it wasn't anything crazy, but still, but I definitely know what you mean, Mike, and it's definitely something to like keep in the back of your mind. So great comment overall. We have Peter saying, have you seen Airbnb? I was looking at it a little bit earlier, and it's up like 10%, which is huge. They reported earnings, and Tom, it's exploding.
Yeah, I saw that they reported and they had some pretty good numbers there. Their EPS ended up beating and it's exploding pretty well, which is really good to see actually. And we're seeing some stocks like some of the hotel stocks not do quite as well, but I'm really happy to see Airbnb starting to explode. I think that shows that maybe not the travel sector in a sense because some of the airlines have been kind of lagging behind, but at least Airbnb and the hotel stocks have been doing pretty decent. I know that like MGM has been running up, but and on the other side of things, Penn has been kind of dying off.
Here we go. We have Dang saying, remember to hit the like button, guys. Got my bagel and coffee ready. There we go. So, yeah, if you guys like the stream, it would help us out so much if you could hit that like button. It takes like 2 seconds, and you guys don't even know. It helps us out so much. So, thank you guys so much for being here. We have Alex saying, AMD in the red. So, Tom, AMD, it's selling off a little bit. I'm not too surprised, to be honest. I mean, after the crazy, crazy day we saw yesterday with AMD and NVIDIA, yeah, it's definitely pulling back.
Yeah, it's same. And I feel like that whenever we're looking at this, they've had like what, 1, 2, 3, 4 huge green days in a row, not just 4 green days. Like those were pretty nice, like 4 to 5% up days and stuff like that. It was looking pretty good there. And then we can see they even had back in July, whenever they had that huge run up, they went up for like 5 to 6 days. Then they started coming back down and consolidating pretty rapidly. And I'm wondering if this is going to be the start of it. Like 140 might be a pretty big psychological level there. I'll definitely be eyeing up 150 after this, but I would not be surprised if we ended up pulling back either, Mike. Like kind of like what we talked about, the SPY and some of these big tech stocks have just been straight up exploding over the past few weeks. And I feel like that they might start to pull back a little bit over the next few days or even just next week a little bit.
All right. Yeah, I could see it. Then we have Johnny saying, sold Peloton puts, which might get assigned. Shall I take a loss or get assigned and sell covered calls? Peloton is a strong company, long term, I guess. So I don't know what strikes you sold and what expiration. I was actually looking to sell some Peloton puts myself. I'm not already in them, but overall, if you don't want to get assigned now, you can always roll it out. So that's actually a very popular strategy. So like I said, I don't know what strike you sold, but let's just say you sold the 70 strike puts that expire today. What you can do is you can just buy back those 70 strike puts and then sell like the 70 strike puts for December of 2021, and you can just do that and you'll actually get a larger credit. So Johnny said that he sold the 84 strike puts for November 19th. So what you can do is you can buy back those puts right now if you wanted to for like $2,400, and then you can go to like December and sell, I don't know, I guess you can say the 85 strike puts if you wanted for like $2,600, and you'll get like $200 more, but then you just have more time. So if I were you, I would either just roll it out to continue to profit off of that time decay. And that's really the main thing right now, unless you really wanted shares. Like if you really want the shares and just get assigned, but if you don't want the shares, then I would consider rolling them.
Yeah, I would too. I think that's a pretty smart thing to talk about. And, people roll stuff all the time. So even though you have to take that loss in the short term, don't feel too bad about it because like Mike said, you'll be getting more credit whenever you do finally roll it over. But, I really hope that Peloton comes back. That was just a very unfortunate move that they had with those earnings there. And I feel like they can come back. It's just in the short term, it's going to be pretty scary. Like we've seen stocks like Chegg and other stocks just go down pretty rapidly, and they're kind of continuing to sell off. So I really hope I really hope Peloton's not in that same boat.
For sure. So just one thing I wanted to add really quickly is like if you're ever in a short put position and you're like, damn, I don't want to buy the shares right now, you can just keep rolling it. That's the cool thing about short puts. So when you're down, like, there's ways to kind of back out of it. So like I said with Johnny and the 84 strike, like, if you don't want the shares now, just roll it out to December. And let's say December comes along and Peloton's only at, I don't know, $70 or even $45. Just roll it again. You can just keep it going until the stock pops up, and then the put expires worthless, and then you got all your money back and you actually made more. The downside, though, is if you want shares and let's say out of nowhere one day the stock jumps up to 100, you're going to miss that opportunity to buy the shares. So it all depends on what you want, but like, one of the many reasons shorting put options is my favorite strategy, because they're so, like, you can do, like, they're so versatile. Like, if you just buy a call option, there's only so much you could do. You could sell the call, you can maybe turn it into a spread sometimes, and that's basically it. Short puts, there's a lot you can do, and it's a solid strategy.
Yeah, it's awesome. And I've actually been helping a lot of people do it in the Discord as well. And if you guys are interested and you need any help rolling it over or anything, just shoot us a message in there, and we'll help you out anytime you guys need it.
There we go. All right, we have Vicky saying, Dr. G said we are out of the pandemic as we know it. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, so I just said Dr. G, but that's good to see. The market's exploding up. It's just rallying, Tom. Every time I refresh the charts, it's just making a new high.
Man, yeah, it really is. And with Dr. G saying we're out of the pandemic, maybe that's why Moderna is starting to fall down so drastically. I mean, man, that's a bad move. And the market is honestly loving it. I mean, as we're talking, we're making new highs. We're almost a 471 now after having 470 be the high of day earlier. And man, this is just such an explosive move with the SPY. It's blowing my mind how some of these stocks are going up. Like, I know we've talked a lot about NVIDIA, of course, they're green today, but the airlines coming back is awesome to see. Even Facebook, I'll tell you what, Facebook has been recovering up very nicely. They're gapping up again today. And with this metaverse news, I mean, they're really getting some, I think a lot of investors are starting to buy back into Facebook. Like, a lot of people I felt like started to sell out and maybe not trust them quite as much. But I'll be honest, I think that all that news has just been thrown out the window. I feel like Facebook just totally changed their platform now. And I feel like that it honestly brought a lot of confidence back into their company. So I like them for the long term. And I'm really glad to see them and just all these other stocks turning back around. I know even some of these like value stocks like Triple M, for example, they're starting to come back up after dipping pretty rapidly over the past couple of weeks.
Yeah, and I feel like while at the same time it brought more investors into Facebook, I feel like it also distracted from the bad news they were having,
Yeah.
So
definitely.
Yeah.
And that news was pretty bad. Like, like it was pretty bad stuff. Like, I know we talked about it a lot, but it's like whistleblower news, antitrust issues, election things. Like, obviously, like there's so much stuff that they go through. Like, I don't even want to like say it all because a lot of it's like rumors and stuff too. So, there's lots of weird stuff. Some people even say Mark's a robot. So, I mean, looking at everything, I would not be surprised. The guy's a genius.
Oh, gosh, it's funny. Yeah, so either way, Facebook's popping up. That's good to see. Across the board right now, stocks are popping. The market's making all-time highs. Disney's still going strong. Airbnb's going strong. Another one that's creeping up there is American Express, AXP. I know this one doesn't get too much attention, but they're having a nice recovery, which is good. I'm just trying to see some other good setups right now. I see that Caterpillar's having a pretty good day. What do you think about CAT right now?
Actually, this one looks pretty good, Mike. I was eyeing them up a little bit whenever they were around that like 190, 180 support down there. And with the way they're coming back up above 200, I feel like it's looking pretty good. It's lining up on the technicals. They had a good earnings report, or at least they moved well off of it, which is good. And they're starting to break this 100 SMA, which is looking like a pretty decent setup. We've been seeing this type of setup happen with a few stocks lately. I know Enphase was looking pretty much like this whenever they were around like October 19th, October 20th. They were kind of consolidating there before they got that big gap up. I'm not saying Caterpillar is going to have a huge gap to the upside, but man, I feel like it's consolidating, having a nice stair step pattern to the upside, and it's in a pretty nice bullish formation here.
Yep. All right, let's see. That's good to see. I'm just doing a quick scan again. It looks like Penn is having a pretty good recovery overall. Nothing like amazing because they're still down a lot, but it's good to see that. Disney still going strong. Tom, like, what stocks are leading your watch list? Like, what setups are catching your eye?
The stocks leading my watch list right now are going to be Pfizer, Penn's up there, of course. LVS is another one that actually recovered up pretty well. They're up 4%, even after pulling back pretty hard right here. Looking on the daily, LVS has actually been recovering up pretty well off of their lows here, especially that like $36 support. Looks pretty decent. Honestly, my favorite stock that kept catching my eye earlier this morning was Boeing, to be honest. And they're continuing to not necessarily run up right now. They're kind of going flat, but they're holding their ground very well. And I feel like if they hold this 218 intraday support, they could still have some pretty good moves later on. But I really like their recovery back. I love how they're hitting off support. And I really like them. Anything under 225 a share, I feel like is a pretty good time to pick up shares for them for the longer term. And, they're still down here by support. I feel like they have a pretty good chance to recover up over the next year to 2 years. I feel like you just can't go wrong with shares of Boeing or even just shorting puts right now. I think it's just in such a great setup. And I'm so glad to see them recovering up. Like those earnings didn't go too well. It looked like they might fall off there for a couple of days. And now they're getting some nice momentum back to the upside. I think that this will be a pretty nice stock to watch for the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, I agree 100%. 100%. I've been watching this one for a while. They've had multiple like attempted run-ups over the past year, but a lot they'll run up for like a week or two and then sell off. But they can like when you have the market just expanding and then Boeing's just kind of like sitting there doing nothing, it'll pop. So I like it overall. They're a relatively safe company with everything being said, and they're still at a good level.
Yeah, they're at an amazing level. And then another stock I wanted to talk about that's been off of people's radars a lot lately is actually Intel. And I know they had a huge drop down on their past earnings. And after that big drop, I've been just slowly buying shares over the past few weeks here on Intel as they've been falling. And they're actually recovering up pretty nicely. They're starting to fill the gap. Now, I will say it's going to be tough for them. They've had a lot of problems over the past couple of years, and they keep delaying a lot of stuff. But they are rumored to be coming out with some new graphics cards and stuff like that. And that's going to be pretty big for them, I think, in the future. But in the short term, I feel like just acquiring shares of them is a good way to go. They're recovering up pretty drastically. And what is this now? Like the 7th or 8th green day in a row? It's kind of getting crazy here on the recovery. But obviously Nvidia and AMD are kind of helping the whole chip market go up. But I feel like Intel for the long term is at a good time to buy shares at. Obviously, I like AMD and NVIDIA more. I thought AMD was awesome to buy at their $100 support, but I'm just throwing it out there because these big stocks like AMD and NVIDIA, they are big players in the graphics card market, or you could say the GPU market. And I feel like Intel, with them kind of starting to enter that market, that might help them out over the next few years. And I feel like Intel is just too big to go anywhere. I know lots of people don't like them, but I will throw it out there. I've been buying shares on the dip.
There we go. All right, we have Vicky saying Microsoft went through the same scrutiny in the early days. Losers do that all the time. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of I guess you could say critics with a lot of these major companies, but at the end of the day, they're exploding. How is Microsoft stock doing, Tom? Like it looks like they're just like inching up to new highs.
Yeah, it really is. We made new highs earlier today. It looks like 338.79 was that high. And if we look at Microsoft on the max weekly chart, I mean, man, like you could go back to 1999 with this one. It very rarely falls. Like, of course, during like 2008, it fell like everything did. But man, it's been on a crazy uptrend. We can see the max weekly chart just shows how strong Microsoft is. I know they're coming out with Windows 11 pretty soon, which is going to be a pretty big thing. So I like Microsoft. They're definitely not going anywhere. And they're just continuing to show their strength. And with the metaverse doing well and stuff, even Microsoft has had good news. Like NVIDIA has had good talks with the metaverse. Microsoft, pretty much all these chip or tech stocks have been They've been having lots of hype lately with that metaverse, and I don't know how Microsoft's going to be implemented in there. Maybe something like with the cloud or something like that. But either way, it's going to be a big thing going forward.
All right, let's see. Let's do a quick check in with Airbnb again. We could see it's up 12%. It's definitely leading the way with a lot of stocks. To be honest, Tom, this is actually a really big move. Like you look on the chart and it's really running.
It really is. Look at that. It broke that. What was that big support or resistance right there? It looks like it broke 180 and just exploded. And we're actually now sitting right just under $200. Are we actually hit 200 on the ask there? It looks like. So we're going to have a very interesting next couple of minutes, I think, with Airbnb. Do you guys think that we'll end up breaking 200? I feel like if we break this to the upside, Airbnb has a good shot to keep running. But I will say this is probably going to be a big psychological level. Looks like so far we've double topped. And man, if we do break it though, definitely watch out for that intraday run again.
Awesome. All right. Let's see. So yeah, those are the main stocks. We basically covered everything, Tom. I'm trying to see if there's any like last minute pops that we're missing or anything like that. All in all, I really like the way Disney's moving out of everything. I wasn't expecting it because, like, of course we were expecting volatility with DraftKings because of their earnings and stuff like that. But Disney, this just it basically came out of nowhere.
It really did. Like I'm looking through the news and there's not too much news going on. I know that we talked about it this morning. There was some news that came out that said Disney is to shut down ESPN Classic. I don't know. Maybe that's going to save them some money, to be honest. I have no idea. But in the end, it seemed like Disney stock loved it today. And I will say one thing I'm seeing also on Thinkorswim, Mike, and, I know lots of people, some people love this guy and some people hate him, but Jim Cramer came out and said yesterday that he thinks investors should buy Disney as a post-COVID play. I know lots of people just say to short whatever Cramer says, but man, that was honestly, Cramer seemed like he had a good call out there. Like, man, Disney ended up coming up pretty good. And I feel like for the longer term, Disney's not going to go anywhere. And the cool thing to me, Mike, is we've seen Netflix fly up with this Squid Game news, and all we need is just one good show out of Disney or one cool movie to come out. And I feel like it could end up going back up. And I've honestly heard something about a new Buzz Lightyear movie coming out over the next year.
Oh, yeah, I saw that too. So it should be interesting overall. Thank you guys so much for joining today's stream. We had a great time. The market's breaking all-time highs. God's good. So thank you guys so much for joining and have an amazing weekend.